Good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Gadogo, and tonight I will be presenting my project, Hate Crimes in the US, 2014 to 2020. Yeah, just to give you a sense of what I'm going to be doing tonight, I'm going to start with an introduction and I'll state the problem that my project is addressing, and then I will give you an overview of the dashboard that I created, and then I'll give you some analysis and incorporate some recommendations, and then conclude my presentation. Now, what you see here is a process that we possibly being in the US, we might be familiar with. And it is a depiction of how a hurricane happens. And I don't want to go into the scientific description of all this. I am not a scientist, but it serves, whatever little explanation I give will serve the purpose. So when you look at how the hurricane starts, it starts with a tropical disturbance, and this is deep in the ocean or deep in the sea, and the winds that are rotating around the cyclone are not organized. They are not strong. But when the speeds of the wind increase, and they reach a certain threshold, then they may turn into a tropical depression. And as the winds increase their speed, it could become a tropical storm. And by the time it becomes a tropical storm, we are able to see exactly what's happening, because we have, thunderstorms, we have rains. But then again, if it doesn't dissipate, the winds don't subside, then what happens is that we have a hurricane. And we all know what that means when we have a hurricane. Now, these images that you see here are images from one of the worst disasters in the US. Hurricane Katrina happened many years ago. But you can see the effect. There's desperation, there's total destruction, there's death. And I'm sure you're wondering, okay, so Hurricane Katrina, what has that got to do with hate crimes? Now, I'd say everything. Now, unfortunately for natural disasters, once they start, now there really isn't much we can do about them as human beings. But when it comes to hate crimes, and you have seen or you have had different countries where people who are fighting, or there's civil strife or civil war, because people are looking at each other and thinking, oh, you're Christian and we don't appreciate who you are, or you are Muslim and we don't appreciate who you are, or you are gay and that is not something that we accept. So when we met our client, Unity for Humanity, a nonprofit organization that works or focuses on social justice issues, and recently started an initiative that addresses or advocates for victims of hate crimes. This is the image that I came out of the meeting with. The idea that if hate crimes are not arrested as they continue to rise, then there is going to be, there could be devastating effects, and that could affect the society at large. Now, I don't know how many of you could say that they have been victims of hate crime. Anybody been or know of someone who has been a victim of hate crime? Now, a large section of the US population has been targeted because of being perceived to be different, whether that is because they're Black or because they have different beliefs in terms of religion, or they belong to the LGBT community. And so when a crime has a layer of bias, then that is considered a hate crime. Now, here you see different manifestations of hate crime. All these incidents are captured by the media. Now, on the left, a Jewish community there having been, the market having been attacked. On the bottom left, a young man identifying as gay, beaten up by people who were biased against him as a gay person. On the far right, a young man hunted down by 3 white males in Georgia and eventually killed. At the bottom there, church members attacked just about when they're leaving church, and then the middle photo there has become a representation of police violence against Black people in this country. Now, going just a little back, now this solution was developed for Unity for Humanity. Again, this is a non-governmental, non-profit organization that is focused on advocating for victims of hate crime in the US. And their intention is to be able to work with law enforcement, work with members of the legal profession, work with state and local governments to find ways to reduce the ever-increasing cases of hate crime. So in creating this solution, now I identified several KPIs, key performance indicators. Now, the first one there being hate crimes, the count of hate crimes to show the number of hate crimes over the 6-year period, and then hate crimes year over year to show the change in hate crimes from one year to the next. I also included violent hate crime rates and violent hate crime year over year, and non-violent hate crime rate and non-violent hate crime year over year. Now, it was essential or crucial for me to segregate these crimes in this way, because two different categories have different manifestations. And so when it comes to interventions or when it comes to allocation of resources, they would not be treated the same. And so it was important for Unity for Humanity to have these KPIs as they are, so that in providing solutions or in their campaigns, then they would be able to identify exactly what's needed where. So this is the dashboard that I came up with. And on the left, the same KPIs. On this here is this chart analyzes hate crimes by month and by year and by month. And you can see just from at a glance that the increasing rate of hate crimes from 2014 to 2020. And I also included this chart here, which is a waterfall. This waterfall populates depending on the filters that you apply on any of the other charts. Now, on the far right, I have this chart that analyzes hate crimes by bias, looking at the drivers of crime, whether the crime is motivated by race or ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender, and more. And then on the left bottom, hate crimes by offender race, looking at the identification of those that were reported to have committed the crime. Hate crime by location, here looking at the very specific locations where these crimes are happening, which is important in terms of making sure that maybe patrol or that there's more law enforcement presence in places that are determined to, in places where hate crimes are happening more. And then the last one is hate crimes by state. And just again, by a glance, you can see California there. Here the intense orange shows high rates of crime, and then the green shows lower rates of hate crimes. So at this point, I will share my dashboard and go over a few pointers. Now, as I said before, this shows hate crimes by year and by month. And from here, you can tell that 2020 has the highest has the highest rate of crimes. Now, the lines here represent the change year over year. And again, you can see that increase in hate crimes year over year, with a slight dip in 2018, and then again spiking in 2019 and 2020. Now, if you look specifically at 2020, you can see that the hate crime rate here is over 30%. And the increase here is over 30%. And in both categories, again, they register more than 30% increase. Now, looking at this map here by bias, you can see that, again, race and ethnicity are the biggest drivers of hate crime. But in terms of, and again, in terms of increase, you can see there that race and ethnicity crimes increased by 50.4% over the previous year. And then again, you can see here gender and identity, again, having the greatest increase of 51.5%. Now, when you compare that to 2019, you will see that the increase in 2019 was only 10%. And especially for hate crimes, that was only 3.3%. Now, when we drill down to month, now what this shows is that the month of June seems to be the month when most of the crimes happen. You can see the rate of, and we can click on that to see the crime rate there. Now, violent hate crimes here increased 20.8% over the previous month. And in terms of non-violent hate crimes, increased by 21.6%, and violent hate crimes increased by 16.6%. Again, sorry, going back to this. Now, we can see here that there seems to be, now in this case, there seems to be, the biggest driver here seems to be disability, crimes committed and associated with bias against people with disabilities. And here you can also see that cyberspace seems to be the spaces where most crimes are happening as well. Now, if we look at now race and ethnicity being drivers of crime, you will notice again here that Native Hawaiian, there is an increase in hate crime, both violent and, especially non-violent hate crimes. Now, as I mentioned before, there are some states that where hate crimes seem to be prevalent, California being one of them. And also we have these states here, New Jersey, and we have New York as well. We have Washington here, and some of the states, for instance, Montana and Idaho here, and Nevada and Utah, are some of the states where hate crimes or reported hate crimes are low. Now, I want to draw your attention to this particular chart here. Now, if we look at this, there is an indication here that the offenders of most of the offenders are actually unknown, and that could indicate incomplete documentation of data, which would be a starting point for this organization to ensure that all reported cases are recorded and recorded exhaustively. Now, at the same time, one of the other solutions that that they could start looking at is especially looking at the rate crime here in 2020, which is the latest year of analysis, to pay more attention to crimes committed against people of particular genders, or crimes that are motivated by gender and gender identity. And what you might also note here, again, let me go back here. What you might also note here that these are violent hate crimes, and most of them are reported to have been committed by people from, or the offenders were identified as belonging to the Asian community. And that could actually suggest, and this would not be conclusive, could suggest some cultural issues going on there that would probably be a subject of investigation. Now I'll go back to my presentation. Now here I have just given a summary of the states where the crime is high. There's New Jersey and California, and then the states where the hate crimes are low, that is Montana and Utah. Now, in conclusion, what we could here, I want to quote Sylvia Matthews, who says, while natural disasters capture headlines and national attention short term, the work of recovery and rebuilding is long term. And we would say the same for, I'm sorry, should have done that. And we would say the same for hate crimes, that a lot of times when we have hate crimes, reported in the media, they capture attention short term. But again, if we do not do anything to mitigate or to reduce the number of hate crimes, then we could end up in a situation that we could actually compare with a hurricane. Here, this is after the rebuilding of after the Katrina hurricane, and you can see, what happens in a happy society. Thank you.